the most disgusting cable news segment he's ever seen. So, of course, we needed to grab it and take a look at it too. Let's watch it together. Are you ready? Something absolutely extraordinary happened last night on CNN. And yes, it sort of involves Scott Jennings. We've got an extended cut of one of the roundtable debates that have been so engaging recently. But I wanted you to see one moment in particular when a Black woman commentator at the table, basically on the air, accused CNN of sexism and racism. I mean, she had to come up for some sort of reason or some sort of example of how Black women are discriminated against in America. So she decided to turn it back on CNN while she was on CNN. Here, watch.
I do not have the same opportunity as you. I know I don't.
And you know
and
that
I know
too.
what, Scott.
And you know that.
Let me just tell you about me.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I want to answer this.
I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about how I feel. Me, a Black woman in this country.
But not in this city.
And I will run. And if you want,
I'm a New Yorker, not in this city. You cannot say that. You can't say that in this city. But I'm not
talking about New York. I'm talking about actually.
Let her finish.
Right here. I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all of y'all added up together at this table, right? And I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in, and it's not
even in the White House.
Even in the White House.
Well, whose fault is that? I don't think you worked for George W. or Trump.
Well, guess what happened when I was there? DEI.
Scott.
Look.
I'm not sure what she was trying to prove, but I'm glad she made the point. So not only is CNN racist, but so's the Democrat White House that I worked in. And Scott Jennings is like, okay. I love, my favorite part is when Scott Jennings saw where it was going, and he's like, no, let her finish. Let her finish. This is going to be gold. But let's have an extended view of this roundtable, because it really was, as our friend Curtis Houck over at Newsbusters, and over at Newsbusters Media Research Center, they have to watch all this stuff. God bless their souls. And he described this as the most disgusting cable news segment he's ever seen. So, of course, we needed to grab it and take a look at it too. Let's watch it together. Are you ready?
Race is not the issue. Then why is DEI mentioned every single day as a solution to every single problem that faces this?
Because of how pervasive it is,
and
how hateful it is to an actual conservative ideological view.
But do you think it is true that all of America's ills, from the plane crash to whatever it is, wildfires, due to DEI for real?
I think that if you believe in the fundamental principle of America, which is that we guarantee everybody an equal chance, not an equal outcome, but an equal chance, then trying to go around that principle, conservatives don't believe in it. And most people who believe in America don't believe in it, number one. Number two, the concept of not hiring the best person for the job in government or anywhere else has been repeatedly rejected by the American people, the Supreme Court, and everything else. And so
what do you get? So I guess what I'm saying is, like, if that is the case, then people are questioning the actual qualifications of many people Donald Trump hired for jobs.
Yeah.
So do you think that he actually...
Why?
Because Elon Musk doesn't even go here. Do you think that he...
That's why.
This is the question people are asking. This is the question that Ryan Clark just asked. Did Donald Trump, for Health and Human Services, find the person with the best expertise to address
this is not a
when it comes to the Department of Defense? Did he find the person with the best expertise to address those issues, or did he just find people
political appointees have one qualification? They serve at the pleasure of the president because the president believes that person's going to best carry out their agenda. That is the only qualification.
And to protect and defend the Constitution.
And that is the only qualification for a political appointee.
I'll just jump in here. Scott Jennings obviously doesn't need any help from me, but as I'm watching it, I would also like to add, number one, with regard to the Secretary of Defense, did you know that the Army shattered their recruitment record in the month of December? That's even before Hegseth was confirmed. Just nominating Pete Hegseth in the United States Army had the greatest recruitment December they've had in 15 years. She's talking about qualification. You know who is eminently qualified to be Secretary of Defense? Lloyd Austin. How'd Afghanistan work out? And how'd our recruitment numbers do under Lloyd Austin? Stop with the qualifications here on this, okay? The fact of the matter is, it turns out if one of your concerns is the recruitment levels and the ability of our military to be able to fight wars because we've been drained of personnel, Pete Hegseth was a genius master stroke. Okay. Number one, that's number one. Number two, and I think this is critically important, Donald Trump, based on his time in the White House last time and based on his entire career, is persona, everything you know about Donald Trump and the way he ran his campaigns, I don't think is shy about firing somebody that he thinks is not kind of pulling his weight and getting the job done. I mean, it was literally his defining trademark catchphrase. You're fired. If he's hiring the people he thinks are going to be best for the job. And if the second they're not the best person for the job, they're out of there. That's the opposite of DEI. And it's funny, when they talk about DEI and get so defensive about it, I think they're only looking at the D and the I. And I'll be honest, I think most Americans, most conservatives, most normal people looking at DEI, we're fine with diversity. All things being equal and everybody's got the same type of qualifications and abilities, and sure, hire as diverse a workforce as you want. I don't care. You want to be inclusive? Sure, absolutely. I don't want to keep people out. I want to have as many different kinds of people working with me as I possibly can, as long as they're good and they can get the job done. The diversity and inclusivity is no problem. It's the E part. Equity is not equality. Equity is rewarding people, even if they don't have the merits, even if they don't have the skills or the abilities, rewarding people at the expense of people who do have the merit and the skills and the opportunities. Equity is dumbing down your standards so that you can open up your opportunities to a more diverse and inclusive workforce. Equity is overlooking better qualified and skilled people solely because of the accident of the color of their skin, and instead bringing people in who are less qualified because your emphasis is the color of their skin. That's the problem. And they never address that, do they? No, sir, they do not. All right. Sorry, Scott. I just wanted to hop in there and give my own opinion. Now we'll watch this unfold.
Matter?
Of course they're
I'm saying,
of course he
not.
believes
Of
they're
course not.
competent.
Of course-
If he didn't believe they were competent, he wouldn't appoint them.
You're not being fair with that. You're not being fair with that response. She asked you a very simple question, yes or no. Look at the appointees. Do you believe DEI had anything to do with those appointees? Do you believe they were qualified? Do you think they would protect and defend the Constitution that represents all of the people of the United States of America?
I think Mark Rubio.
I think you all have literally no idea how the government works, is what I actually
do.
I do.
I
The rest
certainly
of
do.
the-
At a higher level than anyone here.
A couple people at this table have served in the government.
Yeah, me too.
including for this former president.
I just want to say that I think the premise that DEI exists and therefore the people that got the opportunity, perhaps because of DEI, are not qualified is a flawed premise.
Correct.
And I think that is what is so frustrating about the argument around DEI. We know in this country historically, and even today, there are still injustices in this country based on race, based on gender, based on ideology.
Based on who your daddy played
golf with. Yes.
Okay,
And
that
so
happens every single day. We
it's
know
called-
But
that.
it happens every single day all over the planet.
That's
the
what I'm
planet Earth. It is
And
human
so-
nature.
That's
It is human.
No,
every
it
single,
doesn't
and we're the best at it. We're the best at trying
we
to
know
include
Donald Trump's our
people.
president.
Arthur, I guess that's exactly my point. I agree with you. I think that it is true that there have been preferences not for merit since the dawn of time.
Yeah,
And that in this country right now, the same people who are going after DEI, which is about giving opportunities to people who have been historically marginalized, are just as willing to hire their friends.
Is that what
kid.
equity means? Giving opportunity or guaranteeing
It is-
outcomes?
No, it's
it-
giving
no,
access.
actually,
Because that's what
Scott,
equity means.
Scott, what
Actually,
it's
It's
doing
a
is
difference.
giving-
There's a
it's
difference
giving
between equality
access.
and
Hold on.
equity.
No,
Hold
it's
on,
giving
Carrie.
access.
I just want to answer his question because I think
Wouldn't
this
talent
is super.
and hard work
Scott,
give you
I think
access?
this is incredibly
In theory.
important for you to understand and for everybody to understand at home. Okay, this is where I think we go crossways on this issue. You just asked the question: what does equity mean? Does it mean equality or does it mean access to opportunities? And conservatives want to define it a particular way, but you have to acknowledge, I'm asking you to acknowledge that people who believe in DEI do not define it that way. They do not define it as equality.
I think they define it as trying to guarantee outcomes, and I think they define it
Can
as
I
trying,
speak
as
to the
trying
maybe
to
not,
punish
like-
people they don't like.
Scott, that's
The not-
politically, wrong race, wrong
Speaking
gender.
from more of
That's
the
what it's
middle
all
of the
about.
country who's not hyper-partisan on this issue, I think that people generally think diversity is a virtue. It makes businesses better. It makes institutions better. But they also don't like when you have companies or organizations that are spending huge amounts of money to stand up DEI office. As an example, Fairfax County Public Schools, $400,000 spent on a DEI office, but kids are not reading at the levels that they should. They're not advancing at the levels that they should. It's not the issue
But were
of
they doing
diversity.
that before the office was stood up?
Well, no, and probably not. And so I'm not saying
so
the
maybe,
connection.
so maybe
It's the-
implementing DEI might
No,
actually help
but
people
it's
have
not
a
an
better
argument
educational
against DEI. It's how much of our resources are we actually putting?
But
to
that's
it.
not what that's not the way the conversation is being posed in
No.
America today. The conversation about DEI and woke and all of that sounds about marginalized Black and brown people who already are threatened seem to be threatened in this community, in this society, and they're not getting the same opportunities. It was the same thing with affirmative action. Went to UCLA, they got rid of affirmative action. Everyone said you got in because of affirmative action. When I graduated, affirmative action didn't take my test. Affirmative action didn't help me get to where I'm at today. It gave me access that I didn't have based on the opportunity that I lacked because of the circumstances I was born into, which had nothing to do with me, but the country in which we live in. And so the reality is—
Have you seen the
that for-
test scores of UCLA Medical, by the
My
way?
point being, Scott, is that everyone doesn't have the same access. People like to hire their friends. They like to hire the people that they like to be around.
Do you
and
think they like to
But I
hire the
also
best people
do
for the
think-
job?
But I also think
Maybe.
around the idea
No.
of diversity.
No, Donald
it
Trump
should-
hired all of his friends.
But
I want to go back to people that are in his cabinet right now. You know, because you are a smart man. I know you know this.
Why don't
play
you
with me
understand
like
how
you don't.
political appointments work? I don't understand.
It's not
Why
about,
don't
but
you
this is,
just-
I don't
this
get
is
it.
why
But
you
this
don't
is-
understand
can we
how
just go
DEI
beyond?
works. Can we just
Oh, I can't anymore. It's so hard to watch. I'm sorry, but Curtis Houck was right. That is infuriating, but worth watching and worth educating yourself over. Not only does that seem like a psychiatrist therapy session, a group therapy session for all of those women sitting there who feel so wronged by Daddy Trump, but also it shows their absolute ignorance about how government works or how the world. I'm sorry, Trump is now being criticized because he hired people that he likes and trusts to be in his cabinet. Versus what? By the way, what do you call Pete Buttigieg? What do you call Biden's cabinet? What, he hired his enemies to run things? He hired people that he didn't trust? And then, well, he didn't hire anybody, actually, now that I think about it. I don't know who was running things there, but it certainly wasn't Joe Biden. That is just an outrageous, imbecilic moment. Scott Jennings deserves beyond hazard pay at this point for sitting at that table and having to try to talk sense and talk people off the ledge here. And Abby Phillips, by the way, one of the things that I hated the most about that entire segment we just watched was the whole thing is like, and I know you know this. I know you're a smart man. I know that you know this is the truth. Which is another way of saying you're lying. You're just saying what you're saying because you have to for political reasons, but you know better. And that is probably the most insulting, disgusting thing somebody can say to another person, especially in a forum like that on a cable news media environment. But that's, I guess, what we should expect at this point from CNN. Are they really going to last through the year, that network? I doubt it if this continues. I mean, they're making Jim Acosta's show look professional. Have you seen the news from economists? They're forecasting a depression, not a recession, a depression by the year 2030. Well, unless something's done. See, we've got this perfect storm of Social Security and Medicare hitting a breaking point on the budget because the largest generation is hitting retirement. And then you've got a smaller workforce, meaning a smaller tax base to fund those programs. And then you got growing national debt, rising cost of living. It's a big problem. So I know you want the government to do something, but what are you doing personally to take control and protect your family for the future? Have you thought about gold? Well, gold can be a safe haven in hard economic times, and Birch Gold makes it easy to diversify a portion of your savings into physical gold. Birch Gold, they're the experts. They're going to help you transition an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold, and it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. I want you to protect your future today. Text my name, Larry, Larry, to 989898. Get your free info kit on gold and get a copy of the Ultimate Guide for Gold in the Trump Era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. There's no obligation, only information. Text my name, Larry, to 989898. Do it today.